You're watching Dukascopy TV. I'm Elaine Stenson, and today I'm joined in studio by Ciriani from Capco financial consultancy firm. She's here with me today to discuss the new Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act that will be coming into effect next year. Christine, you're very welcome.
Hello Elaine, thank you. Happy to be here.
No problem. Now, can you start by telling me a little bit about FATCA and who exactly it's going to affect?
Certainly. So FATCA stands for the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. It has been signed into law since March 2010, so it's not new, and it affects what they call FFIs, so foreign financial institutions, which include a wide range, including banks, insurance companies, fund managers, investment companies, which apply to about 50,000 to 100,000 institutions.
Okay, and what has been the market response so far?
So obviously, when it was first launched, a big question was whether or not the US government would be able to apply FATCA globally and whether certain countries would simply decide not to comply. For sure, the topic of tax transparency has just gained significant momentum, and FATCA has now been signed into law with new regulations confirmed beginning of this year. Banks have definitely decided to comply further. Without complying, you can't have access to the US markets. And so certain companies have decided not to comply, but the majority have decided to comply. And if we look at tax transparency as a topic, with last week the G20 also signing into agreement having global standard for tax transparency, we see this as just beginning of a momentum.
So is there absolutely no way to avoid this compliance?
So unless financial institutions do not want to have access to US markets, they will need to comply. There are certain countries that have signed different agreements to lighten the way of reporting with different agreements agreed with the US government. But if a financial institution wants to have access to US markets, yes, they will need to comply with FATCA.
And we know that it's coming into effect next year, but how long do organisations have to put it into place?
Indeed, so the deadlines have changed a number of times. The final deadlines are now pushed to the middle of next year with reporting that moves into 2015, 2017. That is seen to be the latest and the final regulation, and most institutions have just taken that delay from January to July as a way to have better compliance with the new regulations.
Okay, and is this going to be difficult for companies to put into place operationally and for administration purposes?
Our experience at Capco as a global consultancy focused on financial markets, with about 2,000 consultants focusing on a number of these topics, is that the response is quite challenging, both from a platform perspective and data perspective. Even with tax transparency rules, we look at digital information being very difficult to access, and therefore putting in place information systems as well as processes to ensure quality of data is available for reporting is something that the market has had to handle as a major challenge. I think banks, the first thing they should do is take their own strategic approach into how far they want to comply and how far they want to invest in ensuring full transparency with both the US government, potentially other governments as well, who are also looking to implement FATCA-like solutions.
Okay. Can institutions derive any value out of FATCA?
In terms of, as this is a growing trend, for sure, institutions that are more compliant with obviously the US government, but also other tax rules, will attract more clients and will be able to retain clients as well as they ensure that they have the information required and have the information to advise clients on how clients should respond to the regulation accordingly.
Okay, and are there any costs going to be involved in implementing?
The costs have been quite high, and they seem to be quite high. I think that the market response has said that about 30 billion is being spent on FATCA as an overall response, purely from an upgrade of systems and technology and processes. At the same time, given the trend, we see this not as a one-off investment. We see this really as an investment in a growing trend is moving forward.
Okay, and what would be the consequences, hypothetically, for a firm that doesn't implement the Compliance Act?
We've seen, obviously, banks that have actually hit the press. There is reputational risk, obviously, from non-compliance of certain clients and certain bankers as well as lack of trust from both clients, but also the regulators.
Christine, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for now, but do check back later for further updates and interviews from the Dukascopy TV team. Bye for now.